The video of that subject matched the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on. That individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valente, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student, he was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the Rhode Island Attorney General, the FBI, the ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, IRS, DEA, Secret Service, and NCIS. There is no way that we could have done this by ourselves. In this nation, when horrific incidents like this happen, law enforcement steps up. Thank you very much.
Mike and Shannon, for 6 days, Providence has been on edge. Now news that the people of Providence and Rhode Island may be able to breathe a little bit easier. We have learned that the suspected gunman in the Brown University shooting has been found dead in New Hampshire. This is all playing out at a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire. And the big break in this case came when investigators got a bead on a car that the suspected gunman had used at both Brown University as well as a homicide that happened in Brookline, Massachusetts. Mike and Shannon, we broke this story earlier today that the person of interest in this case is being looked at for both the Brown University shooting and the homicide of an MIT professor 2 days later, again in Brookline, Massachusetts. Investigators have described this suspect as sophisticated. He has eluded law enforcement now for 6 days straight. We understand that the car that he was using was a rental vehicle that he had gotten out of Logan Airport, and that he had used multiple different plates to get by flock camera systems. But ultimately, somehow, law enforcement was able to track this car to Salem, New Hampshire, where they initially found it abandoned. That led them to this storage facility, and for several hours, investigators have been combing through that storage facility. We could see through aerials, and I don't know if we have video that we can show our viewers of these aerials, police in tactical gear carefully going inside this storage facility to search for the person they believed to be in there, and they ultimately found the suspect dead inside.
We should mention we do have a crew at that scene in Salem, New Hampshire. They're gathering the latest from there, and we're also waiting from a news conference that's supposed to start any minute now in Providence, where they will likely be, of course, sharing this news as well. Yeah, and we have to know that law enforcement has yet to actually publicly identify who this individual is. But we reported earlier today when we went on the air at 4 that they know who the person is, they have their name, and they were moving in on this person. And my understanding, you know, again, we were supposed to have a press conference at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That got pushed. That was because they felt like they were getting closer to this individual, and they did not want to put out too much information just yet, because there was confidence growing within law enforcement that they were moving in on this person. And here's that aerial footage that Tim was just referencing at the storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where we're learning the person of interest, Tim, in this shooting, and possibly the MIT shooting as well, has been found dead. Yeah, that's correct. Our understanding is that police are looking at this as a self-inflicted gunshot wound here, still very early on. They are working to confirm what happened inside that storage facility. Actually, a very important note here, Mike and Shannon, that they believe
according to law enforcement sources to Target 12, that the suspected gunman was inside that storage facility about 24 hours ago, at least 24 hours ago.
It shows how widespread this investigation was. You know, we saw them combing the neighborhood, and then, you know, they were showing the map of where he could be. And now we've gone to possibly Massachusetts, and now possibly finding him in New Hampshire, showing how big this was.
You make a great point, Mike. I mean, initially, starting Saturday, going into Sunday, really into Monday, there was a very small search area on the east side of Providence. And then by Tuesday into Wednesday, that search area had spread out into Fox Point section of Providence. And that's because they were searching for video tracking the movements of this person. Again, described as very sophisticated. He exited the Hope Street side of the Barris and Hawley Engineering building at Brown University. Law enforcement now suspect that's because they think he knew there are very few cameras on that side. If he had gone out on the other side of Barris and Hawley. A lot of cameras.
Right.
And he was able to elude law enforcement. One of the big breaks that happened yesterday, our viewers may remember that they were looking to talk to somebody who they believe had been in close proximity with the suspected gunman. And at that point, they wanted to identify that person. They didn't think he had anything to do with the shooting, but wanted to know if he could help identify him. They found that person. Late yesterday, they found that person. He is cooperating with law enforcement, has cooperated with law enforcement, and he described a scenario, according to my sources, in which up to 2 hours prior to the shooting, the suspected gunman had been around the Barris and Hawley building. This person confronted the person of interest, and then that person ran away. And we have seen video from neighborhood looks like doorbell ring cameras.
Yeah,
that sort
the
of thing.
picket fence is that
Correct.
scene right there. Yeah.
And that the person of interest was running up the street. It was very bizarre because this was before the shooting. In fact, after the shooting, we all noted, and when they had released that video, the person of interest casually walked out of the Barris and Hawley building, up Hope Street, right down Waterman. And that is where initially law enforcement had lost this person of interest. It wasn't until Monday when people started returning home if they were away for the weekend, law firms were opening up, so on and so forth, where more video started to come forward. And that perimeter that you talked about, Mike, started to open up, and it was from there, after they were able to find this person that they wanted to talk to, that had had a confrontation with this person of interest. Undoubtedly, that person had no idea what the person of interest was about to pull off. They were able to narrow in on a car from that moment.
Yeah, the puzzle pieces started to fall into place after they found that person. We should mention too, because I thought this was interesting, and you said it goes to further show the sophistication and the targeted attack of this nature. Even after that person of interest ran away, was spooked in some sort by this person who was in close proximity, still went back and executed his plan.
Well, and as you point out, at a press conference a couple of days later, maybe it was 3, Colonel Perez used the word targeted, had targeted Brown University, but now a new wrinkle. Now we know that this person of interest is being looked at for that MIT professor homicide in Brookline, Massachusetts. That, in my view, sort of clouds what could have been this person's purpose. Be very interesting to find out whenever the press conference happens, if officials are going to announce any nexus, any connection to Brown University in that case, or if it was random. But certainly we are looking at a case that is now expanding. What was I don't want to say simple, what was a double homicide case in Rhode Island, prosecuted through, looking like it was going to be prosecuted through the Attorney General's office, now could include another homicide over state lines, and then yet again over another set of state lines up in New Hampshire. And we know from our reporting that federal authorities were working on a federal arrest warrant. They were planning that if they were going to catch this person alive, it was not going to be in Rhode Island.
And let's face it was not easy to figure out who he was. Think about the first video that released. He had a mask on. He was wearing dark clothing. He did have a gait in his walk, but that's really all they had the first day.
And it really is stunning that over 6 days, video of a very unique walk, somebody who was of stocky build, FBI put out there 5'8",
by the way, we're offering a $50,000 reward. To our knowledge, and we may hear differently at a press conference coming up, to our knowledge, no one came forward to say, I think I know who that guy is. Legitimately, there was a lot of bad information on social media and the internet, as far as we can tell, but there wasn't anything solid that made law enforcement come forward and said, this is the guy to look for. That being said, once they had the name, they withheld it. They, again, have not publicly released the name, and that is because I'm being told they were feeling confident they were closing the circle in on the person of interest.
Now, of course, we're still waiting for a name in all of this.
Right.
And again, we are waiting for the latest press conference that was originally scheduled for 9:15. I believe we're hearing between 9:15 and it was 9:25. Of course, now it's 9:28. So
Right.
we're still waiting for that to begin. And I'm sure they're trying to make sure they have all the information ready to go.
Well, and look, they're hearing from authorities up in New Hampshire. They want to know when they walk out at the Providence Police Headquarters, and they are addressing not just reporters, of course, but the public. And they know that thousands of people are going to be watching this, if not millions across the country. They want to have their information rock solid going into this press conference, and they can tell people with confidence exactly what went down.
Do you think it points to the fact, I know you were mentioning how no one came forward to say, I know this person.
That we know of. I just want to say that, yeah.
Despite that gate, and I know he was masked. Is there a chance that he's not from this immediate area?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact,
not that this isn't national news, but I know we're in our little bubble of Rhode Island.
Think about one of the things that I said here. Our understanding is the vehicle that was used, spotted, and our understanding is what is connecting the two incidents. Providence and Brookline is the car.
Yes.
And that the car was seen either through flock, witnesses, or video cameras. I don't know which of the three it is just yet, just that it was seen, I'll use that word, in both locations. It's a rental car. That suggests that that person may not be from here unless they're trying to mask their movements and who they are and all of that. Again, went through great efforts changing out the license plates. I have up to at least 2 times, could be more. One of the stolen plates, we understand, is out of Maine. We could hear law enforcement up in Massachusetts looking for a vehicle matching the description that was rented, but with a Maine plate. So that informed us that that plate was almost certainly stolen at that point.
Colonel Perez said on a number of occasions they're getting a lot of tips. You got to wonder what was going on the 3rd floor of the Providence police station, and all the tips that were coming. I mean, you were working the phones. You just imagine what they're getting.
I will say this. I got a phone call from somebody that was in that room, just checking in. It wasn't too much substance. I'm sorry, I'm checking my messages as they come in. And it was, I don't want to say chaos, but the sound on the other end of the phone coming through my earpiece, it was, let me put it, it was very, very active. And I know that the Providence Police Department, Colonel Perez, Commander Tim O'Hara, among all the investigative work that was going on, they had very real administrative work in how to place their manpower in there, and they were redeploying people within the police department to handle the sheer number of tips that were coming in electronically on the phone. And then they would have to deploy law enforcement agents from throughout the state and federal agents to go check those things out. We know that they went over the line up into, what was it yesterday, Plainville and in the Attleboro area. We know they checked out a tip West Bay. We got some calls from our viewers who were concerned it was connected to the investigation, but this is just them combing the area.
No tip is too small?
Absolutely not. And they were checking everything that they could, but also, I think you heard Colonel Perez make the point, because you got a lot of questions about, well, why are you just now checking those cameras? Why so on and so forth? And it was, they only have so many people that can knock on every single door immediately around Brown, and inside Brown University, they were checking cameras, but around. But suddenly they were able to narrow their focus east of Barris and Holly and then south. They believe that he went down up Hope, right on Waterman, and down Ives Street, which runs parallel to Hope. And once they had that, they were able to sort of narrow down on where he may have gotten into the car. We talked about this for days leading up to this moment. As soon as they could place the person of interest in a car that would open up a whole bunch of new doors. My understanding is he was captured on the Flock license plate reader system in Massachusetts in multiple locations. So he was, to use a word that I was told by a law enforcement source, all over the place.
And you're looking at aerial video right now of a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where we've learned the Brown University shooting suspect has been found dead. And I know now, Tim, we're using the term sophisticated to describe this suspect, but I wonder how long it took as authorities started investigating this from Saturday. And as you mentioned, we're on day 6, when they started really realizing how much, from the way you're describing it, planning went into this. If we're changing out license plates, if we know there's a building on the Brown University campus that's going to be filled with students on a Saturday, the week before Christmas, if we're going to Boston, if it ends up being connected, if then to a storage facility in New Hampshire, is it spur of the moment, or is this a sophisticated, planned, targeted thing?
Don't know that yet, but I can tell you it was last night when they felt they were onto a solid lead. That's when I learned that. And it was this morning where I got the sense that things were red hot, things are moving, they might get this person, but they were also very frustrated because it was sophisticated.